Welcome to Positive Personal Power with hope, aspiration, and encouragement. Our goal is to build and enhance people's confidence and strength to handle life's challenges. Now, let me introduce you to your host, Nathaniel Skula.
Today, I am joined by David Nash, and he's actually authoring a book very soon. He's writing a book, and it's called From the Dressing Room to the Boardroom. And I'm pleasured also to be joined by Michael Tobin again. Mike,
it's not often that I get thanked for pleasuring someone.
Yeah, what can I say?
There is always a first, Mike.
Here it is.
Oh, you're still wearing the BA pajamas?
They're different ones, but you know.
All right.
It's maximising value, you know. I've got a whole wardrobe full of them. At this rate, I'm going to have more BA pajamas than BA's going to have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Send a few back to him, mate. Do him a favour.
So, I know that you've moved beyond cricket to become an entrepreneur, right? And you're moving into being an author, but you've obviously been through some struggles along the way, and this is kind of important, I think, for the listeners out there, right? So what do you think were the biggest struggles that you went through in your career that's helped you to get where you are now?
For me, I think it was my mental struggles and my anxieties. When I played at Middlesex, it was a very hard school, and things like mental health were just nothing. It just never got spoken about. It was, that was just a sign of weakness. You were just weak. And I remember the first time I went to my doctor and sort of said, look, I'm struggling to see the ball, and when the ball's coming in, I'm just easy, simple throws, I'm not able to judge it. And the doctor just sort of said to me, "Oh, you're dehydrated. Take some more water on board." So I was drinking more and more water, and it would just kick in. I didn't know what was happening to me, but what was happening was I was having panic attacks when I was out in the middle, and as I've sort of went on, I was able to sort of deal with that. But definitely the mental health struggles of playing cricket were massive for me, and particularly fearing failure, letting my parents down, just letting myself down, letting my family down. But just the fear of failure was massive, and I'm not proud to say it. It got so bad that at times I would just be having a panic attack. I wouldn't know how to deal with it, so I would just feign injury. So I would generally do the hamstring ones. The great thing about the hamstring, even if you just do a grade sort of 1 hamstring or a grade 2 or whatever, you can't basically tell unless it's a really, really bad one where all the bruising comes out. You can strain it, and there could be the physio might not be able to exactly tell. So that was the one that I normally went for, and I did that 4 or 5 times in my career. And but at the end of the day, I knew it wasn't right, and I knew I should be giving the game away. But when you've got nothing, and when you've got no skills, and you've got really nothing going for you going forward, or that's what you what you feel, it's very hard to give away. So you muddle through.
There's 2 things there, Nashi. I mean, so first of all, you were a good player, right? So for you to have anxiety about not performing on the pitch, and you're a good player, imagine that this must be something that's that's not uncommon within sport.
This is the thing. It only came out when I'd pretty much finished, that people were starting to come out about it. People like Marcus Trescothick, Jonathan Trott, Freddie Flintoff. I played throughout all the age groups with Freddie, and went on England A tour with him to Sri Lanka. And you'd never think Freddie would be one that would suffer with mental health, but he suffered that much that even now he's not drinking, because he knows that when he then gets back on the booze, that will then affect his mental health. And to be totally straight with you, I've been off the booze for 5 months now, and I don't think I'm going to go back to it.
Is that because you can't get out to the off license?
It's I can't get out to Nat's off license in Chertsey.
Oh, it closed down. It closed down.
And it's B. I on booze, my anxiety goes through the roof, and I just don't want to be feeling like that again. It's just, I let myself have 2 or 3 non-alcoholic beers every night, and I haven't had an anxiety attack since I've been off the booze.
Oh wow.
I'll tell you what, though. So I mean, booze generally. So I try to limit in lockdown. I try to limit drinking to sort of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because like before, I didn't used to drink at home at all unless we had guests, and now we're at home. It's kind of like so I try and only drink. Are you wearing shorts, Nash?
I am, mate. I'm wearing shorts. I'm just about to go after this. I'm out in the garden on the sunbed reading my book, going through my book.
I tell you what, I'm so happy you're actually wearing shorts, because it wouldn't be unusual for you to have nothing on.
No,
oh yeah, I've heard about that. Didn't you used to take interviews with the press when you were in the dressing room, like wearing like a
I've
towel
been
and that?
known to be very casual. I mean, one of the things I sort of put in the book that's one of my biggest learnings about sport to business effectively was when I did it rained at the end of one of our games, and it was absolutely sodden. There was puddles on the outfield, and we were having a couple of beers in the changing room. And one of the lads, Phil Tufnell, turns around and went, "Oh, that's perfect turf out there to do the old Jurgen Klinsmann dive." And I said, "Yeah, I love the Jurgen Klinsmann dive." So I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll go out and do a naked little run onto the turf and do the Klinsmann dive." So the boys all chipped in. So I got together about 240 quid, 20 quid a man with the old 12th man in as well. And went out, did the Jurgen Klinsmann dive. Both teams were on the balcony. I'm nuddy. There was still a few press in the ground, so it got in the paper the next day. I got back into the changing room. I knew I was then in a lot of trouble when Tuffers basically came up to me and said, "Nashy, if they try and sack you for this, mate, don't worry about it. I'll back you." And that was when I thought, shit, A, I'm in trouble, and B, I've learned whatever you do, make sure you get the money up front. Because I never got paid.
Oh, no, that is very sound advice for all businesses there, to be honest, isn't it? I mean, as your business at the moment, it must be really tough. You're in hospitality.
It's absolutely buggered at the moment. I mean, before it, and when we set up this business, the idea was to give back, whilst also giving us some kind of life. And we've raised 20 million since inception when we started the business 9 years ago for charity from my mum and dad's spare bedroom. And we got 40 staff, of which most of those are now furloughed. Oh. But being truthful, I don't think everything we do is around mass gatherings. So last year we did 180 mass gatherings events. I can't see mass gatherings being back in until at least January and February are right off for us anyway, because there's very few events. So I'm thinking that we're not going to be back up and running until at least March, April next year.
Yeah, that's probably
so
about right.
It's going to be absolutely brutal for us. In that time, we're still paying for rent because our landlord's giving us absolutely nothing. We're still paying for all things that you can't get out of, like Salesforce and stuff like that. So it's a real tough time. We're projecting about a £300,000 loss next year, and that for a small business is pretty hard to wear. But we will get through it.
And do you think you come back after this, or are you going to call this a sort of a watershed moment and try and think about going into authoring as a career now?
Well, as I said to Nat earlier, before we went on air, I failed my A-level English. So one of the boys texted me, Ben Hutton, his old man, obviously Len Hutton, the grandson of Len Hutton, Middlesex. Ben was my captain, one of my many captains at Middlesex. He sent me a WhatsApp the other day when I sort of sent out the first sort of 8 chapters of my book. He sent me a WhatsApp saying, "Dog, give me a shout if you need any help on the spellings." To which I put back a bit, not a nice reply, but it did make me chuckle. But authoring, I don't think it's something. It's a one and only. I won't be doing any more, but I've really enjoyed it, and I think it's just the reason I've done it is I just wanted a something to do at a time that we are not doing too much, and B, obviously I think it's a great legacy for the children, and reading your books, Mike. I really loved it. I loved reading them, and I just thought it was one of those things in life, a bucket list thing to do, but I won't be doing more than the one.
Well, it'd be nice if you can do the audio book as well, because that's a real fun experience that I found. So I did my own audio, and you sit yourself. There was this small sort of studio I went to in Tottenham Court Road called Cheapest Chips. There's a
Brilliant.
where my priorities are. But basically, you sit there in a soundproof room, and the editor's literally live with you, and you're just reading your book, and actually post. Now, bear in mind, you know, it was published by a proper publisher, and it had been proofread and edited again, and all this sort of stuff. And when I was only when I read it out loud did I think, hang on a minute, that bit don't make sense. But there's one paragraph in the book that's completely different on the audio version than it is in the book. It's like, this is bullshit when you read it like this. So, reading it on the page without making noises is very different to when you're actually reading it and you're trying to intonate like you're talking as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Of course. It's good though, writing a book. I wrote one, and like I didn't get GCSE English, and I had an English teacher, and he would tell me I'd be cleaning toilets. That's what he would say to me, and he said, and I didn't write anything legible till I was 35. I read the book by Seth Godin called The Icarus Deception. And I don't know if Mike's heard this story, actually. He might have. But so I read this book called The Icarus Deception, and it basically tells you that you need to basically just build your own audience, because someone's going to like find it useful and helpful. So I was like, right then, I'm going to get stuck in. And it took about, let me see, about 3 years probably. And then IBM said, oh, we want you to write some blogs for our new blog called Think Marketing, which was like a blog that they were doing. And we're going to pay you like $1 a word. So I got paid like $1 a word for like, so yeah, I was like, wow, like, yeah, let's have some of that. And then after, so Seth Godin was the guy who actually wrote some of the introductory articles for this new blog that they launched. And he basically, yeah, so he actually wrote some of the articles, and I was featured in that blog, but unfortunately they changed marketing manager and shelved the project.
That's a gut.
So they deleted the whole thing. They spent like $250,000 plus on that. Jesus. And then killed it.
I think, in all honesty, Nat, they'll probably be paying me $1 a word to put a red pen through it, mate. On mine.
It'll be brilliant. It'll be brilliant. Don't be negative. Come on, man.
Oh, I don't know.
Was the marketing manager
I've sent it to Mike so he can give me some honest feedback.
Was the marketing manager at IBM? Was that your brother, Nat? Was it?
No. My brother's not IBM. He was at Cisco. He's in sales, like sales. The cheek. I'm gutted now. I'm gutted. I'm gutted now. I spent thousands of hours learning how to write, and I still get ripped up. But my business partner, he's called Mike as well, and he gives me abuse about my English. So I really wouldn't worry about it.
Brilliant.
So I've got another question. For you, David. So, do you think that playing professionally has enabled you to be more successful in business?
I think I don't have too many skills to my skill set, to be totally honest with you, Nat. I have one skill, and that is people. I'm great with people. I love people. I love people that succeed. And generally, I think people take to me because I think I'm just very honest, and I just try never to let anyone down. And the times that I have let people down, like one of our clients, Bit Food, we let them down on our first event we did for them, in the fact that we got their branding wrong on the day, which was a total muck up. And I went basically up to the marketing director and said, look, please fire me. I'm embarrassed, and I'm really sorry. And they gave us another opportunity, and they've been a client for us all the way through now. And it's been great. So I think the key thing for me is hold your hands up when you mess up, and just be true to yourself, be straight, be open, be transparent, and never let anyone down. And for me, ask for the deal. I mean, I stick my 3 things. Don McCarthy, who was a great businessman, he was chairman of House of Fraser, who gave us our first opportunity in business. And when I went to see him to basically just sort of say, how can I sort of grow the business, and what are your words of advice, he said simply, Nashi, keep it very simple. Get great people around you, go with your gut feel, and wear your best suit when you see your bank manager.
I like the last one. Yeah, that's true. I mean, having great people around you is absolutely critical. And I think a lot of people in business, coming back to the insecurity thing, right? A lot of people in business don't tend to recruit people that they feel intimidated by, right? And I think that's, what you need to do is find the absolute best person that you can for every single role. And then just don't try and tell them how to do their role. Just give them a vision of where you want the business to go, and they'll find the way, because they're better at their role than you are. That's why you employed them. And then they will find their way to deliver on that. And I think that's the kind of way to, really excel at business, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you said something interesting, Mike, the other day about, or maybe last week, about finding people who have not the qualifications, but the right mindset. And I thought that was really quite interesting, actually.
Absolutely. You got to, so I can teach a skill, but it's very, very hard to teach an attitude. And so I want someone that, getting things wrong is normal, right? Getting things wrong in life is normal. That's obviously why, your guy gave you another chance at the gig, right? Because things go wrong in life, and we at home with the kids, we have a kind of a rule that we don't use the word failure and we don't use the word mistake. We just say there's either success or learning.
Yeah, brilliant.
If you look at it like that, then the negatives are positives in the sense that you're learning from them how not to do something.
Spot on.
Well, yeah. It's worked for me.
No, it's spot on. Also, Nat, because I've got very little skills, I have to have a lot of drive and determination, because no one's going to employ me. So if I don't do it myself, basically, my family doesn't eat.
Yeah, it's a fair point as well. You've got to have that determination. And I think that's one of the most important things in life generally, is resilience, right? So when I was doing a tour of Robben Island in Cape Town, where Mandela was incarcerated for 27 years. And there's a thing on the wall, and it's like they used to hammer away at these big stones. That was their job every day in the courtyard, was just literally hammering big rocks to break them into small rocks. And it was designed to be monotonous and everything else, but they couldn't move on until they'd broken it. And he said, what I noticed was it didn't matter how many times with these tiny hammers that you hit the rock, eventually you knew that one of them was going to break the rock, but you just didn't know which hit was going to break the rock, right? So you kind of got this concept of never giving up on the basis that that after that one failed, that one failed. You just don't know whether the next one will do it. And every time, he said, then the amount of times over 27 years that lesson was ingrained in him was simply, this thing's never going to break, clunk,
Yeah.
And so that's a kind of an ethos that he had, is continuously getting up and getting up and getting up and making sure that you don't give in. Resilience is super important.
It's massive. No, spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you bring that from your sport right into business. I mean, you don't just become a really great cricket player overnight, right? Like you have to hone your skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was definitely someone that had more talent than what I achieved. I was a bit of a waste of talent. I think I got things wrong a lot. I got in with the wrong crowds. But back then it wasn't a very professional sport. So there were always off-field distractions. Nowadays the players go to their hotel room, they eat in their hotel room. There's no socializing really. They have their urine tests in the morning. Everything's done for them. And they're, basically the whole going out and enjoying yourself is taken out of the equation. Whereas in our day, it was more of a amateur type sport that you were getting paid for. And you were basically at university, but playing cricket with your mates. Yeah. That was what it was pretty much like. And I fell into that trap. And I think I fell out of love with the game. And I just love the lads, and I just love being around the lads.
Yeah, and having fun, I mean, it's quite an interesting sport though. I mean, like, I can't play cricket very well. Yeah, I was like on the third team or something when I was at school. I wasn't exactly, very good at it. But it sort of, it's sort of it was quite a fun game because you can have a beer and you can socialize and have a chat. There's a lot of time where you can talk to the guys and sort of bond, right? And I mean, I hate to think what it was like back in the day, because my great uncle, he actually was a captain of England back in the day, and I dug out a Wikipedia about it because I don't know a huge amount about that part of the family. It's my mum's been going on about it for years, and Francis George Mann was born in Byfleet, and he basically let me see, his father Frank Mann also captained England, and can you imagine what it was like back in those days?
Oh.
I mean, was it more formal, do you think, or less formal?
I just think it must have been an absolute party. Just getting on the boat to blimmin' Australia in those days. I mean, how long would that have taken just to get there?
Yeah.
Oh absolutely. My God! Imagine the parties on that boat. Jesus Christ! God, it must have been an absolute. I bet they with their England blazers on, the female numbers on the ship would have been through the roof.
Of course.
God.
Of course.
More wives than you on that boat, Mike.
You think about it, it must have been a miracle that anyone won a touring match, because, you know, coming off a boat, you know, no wonder the Ashes became so important, because if you tried to win the Ashes away from home in those days, after kind of being on a boat for a month, and then, you know, getting scurvy or whatever you'd get in those days, trying to play cricket.
The opening bowler's probably 2 stone heavier by the time he gets there.
That's a really good point, actually. It would have been quite fun, though, wouldn't it? I mean,
awesome. They're probably sitting there with their cigars, you know, right up to when they, you know, stub the cigar out on the way out of the dressing room when you go out the bat. And
well, that side of the family they were from the Mann Brewery, you see, so they were right into all of that sort of cigars and port after dinner sort of clan, you know.
I sat 3 spots away from Phil Tufnell. He used to do that before he batted as well, Mike. That was only about 10 years ago.
What, the port and the cigars, or just the beers?
He'd be putting the old smoking out the window of the change room with all his kit on, absolutely looking like he was about to go to his death.
Now, Nash, we've lost. You're back again.
Here he is.
Yeah. A bit there.
Here he is.
So, well, you just had a bit of a scratch there, did you?
No, sorry, I'm on my iPhone. People calling me, trying to interrupt me.
It's all right. This is fine. This is normal. We have to take it as it comes.
That's not really in front of a mountain range either.
I'm not. And I actually want those chairs. Those are on my bucket list. Yeah,
they're nice. They look expensive.
Yeah, they are. If you get the originals, they're about between 6 and 10K each. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Plus the footstool. I want two, definitely.
You've researched this, haven't you?
Oh yeah. My sister and her husband, they've actually got those with the footstools out in San Francisco. She works at Intel and he works at Google. He manages like the data centers.
She works at IBM, does she?
No,
yeah.
She works at Intel.
That's what I was going to say. You want to speak to that IBM marketing manager again?
No, I'm not sure that particular marketing manager will be there. I'm not quite sure what happened there. We're not going down that route, guys. Okay. You get me in big trouble.
So Nashi, what's one of your most memorable sporting achievements? You must have a lot there.
My most memorable sporting achievements. Well, we were talking about it the other day on a Zoom with all the sort of Middlesex group from the 95 to the 2005 era, which was all my peers like your Andrew Strausses, your O.A. Shards, your Nick Comptons, all people like Owen Morgan, all those sort of guys. We were a lot of youngsters basically coming through together, but we'd come off the 85-95 era of Gatting, Tufnell, Ramprakash, Fraser, Embry, Desmond Haynes, legends of the game, where they all had pretty much 11 internationals and they were very, very successful. We got them on the back end of their careers when they were on their way down, on the way out. And us youngsters were coming through, they just threw a load of us youngsters in and we weren't ready. We just weren't hardened pros. So effectively, our sort of era was an era of transition, and we didn't play well. We came second a few times. We won the T20. That was great. But we went to Stanford 2020. Went out there to the Stanford because Middlesex won the T20, and good old Alan Stanford. I mean, we were meant to go to his house on a Wednesday night for a party, and then we were basically told the party was off, and we thought, that was a bit weird. And then we'd heard, and this is only alleged, I don't know what truth is in this, that he'd come to his house and seen that his captain of the Stanford 2020 teams, not naming names, with his wife. So I don't know if there's any truth in that. But looking through the great moments of my life, I was lucky to have Lords as my office for 15 years. And I played with so many amazing players, the likes of, Langer, Jacques Callis, Glenn McGrath in my team. And, played against some great players like your Laras, your Shane Warnes, your Marillitherans. But, I wouldn't say that necessarily. Obviously, I played for England A, so I played for my country. I played England under 15s, 17s, 19s. But I definitely would say I had an unfulfilled career as far as, amazing cricketing moments. Because if I'm totally honest, I just didn't live up to what I should have been. Yeah,
I was thinking about that earlier, actually, because I did a bit of research on you. Obviously, not too much, but enough to kind of.
It doesn't take long, no.
Well, look, I'm sorry, Mike, but I'm just busy. Probably not as busy as you, but there we go. So anyhow, I did a bit of research on you, and I did want to talk about that, but I didn't want to ask you a question around that until you brought it up, because it would be impolite. Yeah. So do you think that actually has helped you in your business career to make you more determined, to be not a perfectionist, but to be successful? Because I think for me, I'm similar in many ways in that respect, actually, but not in a sporting environment. Well, perhaps that as well, actually.
What I've learned a lot about leadership, and I've learned from my time at Middlesex in the main how not to do it. I mean, the best leader I have at Middlesex, bar none, was Andrew Strauss. He was amazing. That man was the best communicator I've ever met. He was amazing, and he'd make you feel amazing even when you were doing poorly. But I had a guy at Middlesex who was my coach for many years, a guy called Ian Gould, who's a famous umpire, and he was a bully. And he started my anxiety. He started my depression. I just didn't want to be around that guy. And I think he affected my cricketing life. And to this day, he probably wouldn't see it. He wouldn't believe it. But, as a club, we did shocking things. I saw some shocking behaviours in my time. From the morning warm up playing football, we'd have whites up one end and ragheads up the other end. And no one ever stood up to these people. They never stood up to it. And do you know what? It's in the book. And I just saw I had really poor leadership in that time. It affected me. And I think I wasn't able to come back from it. And I wasn't strong enough to stand up to it. But what I've learned from it, and learned from some of those poor experiences, I've taken into my business life and tried to do the right thing, and things around marginal gains. We had some great, coaches, people like John Buchanan, who Richard Pybus, amazing coaches, coached Australia for years. Pybus coached South Africa, West Indies, very successful coaches. These people were trying to bring in the marginal gains. So little things like Richard Pybus would get us to take our own pillows to away games, and we'd all be in a room and we'd have a relaxation techniques and stuff like that. He was before his time, whereas then all our senior players didn't like Buchanan and Pybus, because they were taking things away from them that they felt that they deserved by being first team cap players, things like single rooms on away trips. John Buchanan took them away from the senior players like Mike Gatting, Mark Ramprakash, these legends of the game, because they were then all of a sudden having to room with the youngsters like myself and O.A. Shah, people like that. And they were, so the senior players obviously didn't like that, and it upset them. And the senior players were the ones that got the likes of Pybus and Buchanan dismissed very quickly. And that unfortunately was affected the club going forward.
Well, I think this marginal gain thing is now prevalent in all sport, right? I mean, you know, they go to incredible detail, you know, eye training as well. So, you know, you have eye doctors that kind of make sure that your eye muscles are moving in the right directions and are quick to move from one aspect to another. And especially in cricket, where, you know, obviously hand-eye coordination is critical. But yeah, I mean, the progress in that area has been immense. But it just feels, you know, I guess listening to you there, it does feel like there must have been a lot of people that were in the same boat as you that could have been, you know, at next level.
We lost so much talent to it. Yeah. And do you know what? I think Ian Gunner, you know, I love Gunner's company. He's a very, very funny man. He's a brilliant umpire, but he affected a lot of people. And it was that bullying culture, you know, it just, you know, Andrew Strauss will tell you, you know, it affected him as well. And yes, it was a different era then. I totally accept that it was a different era. And, you know, it sounds like an excuse, and I hate excuses, but it definitely affected me.
So how do you communicate all that knowledge to your kids now then?
Well, all I ask my kids is basically be true to themselves and be the best that they can be every day. And put other people first. I think that's the key. And yes, you know, Ian Gould and people like that, they had a lot of cheap laughs at a lot of us youngsters' expenses, you know, at our expense in front of the senior players. That, you know, it just make people feel good. The only way you're going to get the best out of them if you make them feel good. And rather than, you know, I was losing my hair at the time as an 18-year-old, and it just ripped the piss out of me for my barnet and stuff like that. And I'd just be like, you know, it's not going to help my performance, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think piss taking is important in sport, but not from your coach. Don't take the piss out of people's performance as well. You know, that's dear to us all. I don't go out there to try and do a poor day's work when I'm on the cricket field. I get out there to give my best. And I think I almost rebelled against it with the drinking, because I'd almost it was my almost fuck you, to be honest. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at what's happening at the moment, you know, the with the government and the press, you know, it doesn't really matter whether it's left or right or what the government is of the day. But pretty much everything that government tries to do, the press are out there to kind of hound them. And I often think to myself, is like, does that person intentionally come in every day to do a bad job? Well, of course they don't. Nobody intends to do a bad, comes into the office, whether that's in Westminster or whether it's in, you know, in a tech company. No one comes in and goes, right, I really want to screw something up today. I really want to be bad. You know, they come in and try and do the best they can do, right? And so positive criticism or you know, something that people can take away as improvement, I think is good. But really, you know, being abusive about it, I think is quite difficult. Yeah. But I mean, it's but you know, I think the other thing about sort of you know, Mickey taking and that sort of thing that is rife in especially in cricket and the sort of the sledging and stuff. I think a lot of it depends on the relationship of the two individuals, right? So you know, you and I could take the mickey out of each other because we know that there's a depth of fondness before that, but it's where there isn't that other kind of level.
There's a line. I agree totally.
Yeah. It's like bullying at school, right? Like that's where it's sort of come from, isn't it? You know, and you either are a bully or you get bullied, or sometimes you become a bully because you were bullied, and it's the only way to defend yourself. And I don't think that the awareness was there back then, you know, of that. I mean, I didn't become aware that I was a bully or had been bullied, and switch between the two. I didn't realize the big picture until you get older. I mean, it's just life, right? Like, and it's just the way it is. Now Mike bullies me. Look, he's going to rip me up now.
Consider yourself a bully now? I didn't realize you felt that.
I was a bully, but then I got bullied, you know, and
Were you held back a long time at school? Is that why you could do that?
Look, I can't even give you the middle finger, because it fell off. I've got a 3D middle finger that my mate made me this hand, and it's got a 3D middle finger, but it's fallen off, and I can't even give Mike the middle finger because it's.
I bet they worked for IBM and all, didn't they?
No, we're not talking about IBM.
Actually, 3D printing is the way forward, I must admit, because I reckon that you can get anything now 3D printed, and thinking about the travel, because you're all in lockdown, right? I don't suppose you've been out much, Nashi, but
no.
Imagine, if at the moment we're relying on deliveries and stuff, right? But I think over time we'll all have a little 3D printer in the house, and if you need something, you just print it yourself, and you'll pay for the design code, come through on an email, and then print it yourself. Then we won't even need deliveries.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And when you order something from IKEA, half of it's going to come in a box. The other half you print yourself, you stick it all together. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? So
what's going to happen? What's going to happen with the world going forward, guys? What do we feel?
I'm excited. I think I was talking to someone the other day, yesterday, and he was basically saying that, who's that chap that, there's this really, really famous kind of prolific entrepreneur in America. And he was saying how that, nowadays the businesses that are going to come out of this are going to be the next wave of Uber and Airbnb. And, there's a whole new load of startups that are just going to go like this. I mean, literally, it's crazy, really.
Well, I think we were already starting to see, Uber being used as a verb as well as a noun, right? Because businesses are being Ubered, because yesterday they weren't there, now they are there, and suddenly traditional business models that were doing well before are struggling today. And I think this has just accelerated that whole process, right? And there'll be people out there. I mean, it's interesting because since the 2007-2009 financial crisis, there are a lot of Uber. Speaking of Uber, there are a lot of Uber drivers that were from the financial industry. That suddenly the whole industry shrunk so much that the people had to find alternative work. So they started driving Ubers. But now driverless cars are going to come along, right? And Uber drivers are not going to have a job anymore because cars won't need to be driven, right? And if you think about in the US, the single biggest job, if you take taxis and freight and buses, is driving. So the single largest employee category in the US is not going to be here in 30 years.
Jesus,
it's quite interesting when you think about it that way, right? So being flexible, finding alternate ways to deploy skill sets is really, really important.
Yeah. And, there are two types of people right now. There are the people who really don't know what the hell to do. And then there are the people that are like, well, okay, I might be out of work now, but I'm going to change. And they're changing very quickly what they're doing. And you either sit there and embrace the pain and do nothing, which it can paralyze you. I mean, the fear of everything, it can paralyze you totally. And sometimes you need help to get away from that. But then the other people are like, well, okay, I've got enough money in the bank for a while. I'm gonna get on with changing what I'm doing. I'm really positive about it, but it's tough. I mean, it's tough for everybody, really.
Yeah. No, I must admit, it's it's good if you can flex your skill sets, and obviously, as you say, if people that don't know what they're going to do next, I mean, the only option for them is to start a podcast, really, isn't it?
Well, or two or three. I mean, it's no need to be rude, Mike. I did that 5 years ago and I still don't know what I'm doing next. No, I'm kidding.
You do very well now.
Are you getting your own back here, Mike? Was your brother bullied by Nat at school or something?
Probably.
I didn't go to school.
I got expelled too. So, hey, it is what it is, right?
Well, it's quite interesting. You got 3 entrepreneurs on this program. None of them actually sort of did particularly well at school, and none of them, played much of a kind of an academic card. Yet through hard graft, flexibility, persistence, that sort of stuff. Those are the criteria that are going to shine through in this environment.
Yeah.
Also, you do need a little bit of luck and opportunity. I think the one thing that I was able to do was basically how we got our sort of first deal. I would take tickets to events that CEOs would be at, and I'd basically just go up to the table. I'd look at the guest list, Google their picture, and go up to their table and say, look, I think I've got something that's great for your business. Someone gave you your opportunity. Can you please give me mine? And nice. I got the meeting with John King at House of Fraser, and then we were away.
Nice. I think sometimes though you can just be 1 or 2 millimeters away, and it's almost like until you're ready and you get to that point of, right, I'm really ready for this. The success doesn't just come. Like you think, oh, I really need this. I really need it. And it's like, well, no, you need to become the person that you need to be in order to get to that success. It's kind of
so it's like that little hammer on the rock again, right? So you don't know when when I first learned to sell, the guy that taught me happened to be Brian Adams' cousin.
Not him again.
It's another story. But so the point was that if you're a broom salesman and you have 100 doors in front of you, and I think I've mentioned this to you before now, and you don't know which of those doors is going to hold the customer that you're going to sell this broom to, but on average you sell 1 broom to every 100 houses. So the quicker you can start knocking on doors and they open up, say no, and slam the door, that's a positive, right? Because that by the law of your own statistics, you're going to get to that sale. So you have to go through the no's. You have to kind of hit lots and lots of times before you get to that. You've got to do it. And I think thinking about that as a positive is really important.
Yeah. Persistence, resilience. Like it's just, it's hard work though. I mean, you've got to do something. Nothing falls out of the sky and lands in your lap. I mean, you hone your skills, right? Like
there's a lot of people that think it does though. And that's what I hate. I hate people that don't share in other people's successes.
Me too.
There's a lot of people that love running people down. The amount of times I've been at my pub and just heard people like chatting about sport and going, oh, I could have been a professional footballer. I could have been this. I could have been that. Well, fucking why aren't you?
I'm going to have to put an R rating on this.
It really gets on my tits. It really does.
This is an R-rated show now. You made me do that. I'm going to have to click that button in iTunes now. Big trouble, mate. Last time I invited a cricketer on here, Mike.
Well, if I'd have known that, I'd have been a bit fruitier from the beginning. Got a few choice words for Nashy.
So people, if they want to find you, David, how do they get hold of you?
Either on my mobile 07768558086 or on email dnash@dggrp.com. I'd love to hear from anyone. I'd love to hear entrepreneurs with their business ideas, because one thing I'd love to do going forward is do a bit of investing into businesses like, small businesses where people have got that desire and ambition to be something.
Super.
I'm impressed you gave out your phone number then.
So am I.
Yeah, it's all in the book as well. I've done my phone number in the book as well.
Wow.
And the email, exactly for the same reason.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Super. Well, thanks, Mike.
Pleasure.
Thanks, David.
Lovely to meet you, mate.
And you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Positive Personal Power. Do subscribe via your favorite podcasting app, and please leave us a 5-star review. Or sign up on our website, positivepersonalpower.net, for weekly emails and updates, and do share our episodes with your friends and on social media. Feel free to reach out anytime.